Hi, my name is Andrew Dobson. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time has consistently ranked as one of the greatest video games ever made. The game covers a broad amount of themes from the myth of a hero, human spirituality, the coming of age process, and more. In this video, my brother and I will provide an analysis derived from sources on the two major numbers in this game, trinities and septenaries, as well as connecting Joseph Campbell's work of illuminating universal myths and their meanings. The first thing we will be analyzing is the creation myth as told in the game. This is perhaps the greatest insight to the game because it shows the player the origins of the aspects of Trinity in the Hyrulean universe. Trinity literally created the world, and it has the power to make life a paradise or a hell for all. To understand Trinity, I have created a trinity in 3 examples to define what a trinity is. A trinity is the concept of 3 separate things that together form one thing. In the physical world, a great example of this is the atom. The proton, neutron, and electron are the 3 components that compose one atom. The second example that I find relevant to this game is Plato's definition of justice. Justice in this sense is not a legal proceeding or a person enacting revenge, but those can be imperfect definitions of justice. They, however, can also be vicious forms. Plato saw that the purest and most virtuous form of justice is merely when a man is wise, courageous, and moderate. These 3 independent things are really one thing, pure justice. The final example I want to provide in my trinity of examples is from the New Testament. The Holy Trinity, being defined as God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. All 3 are separate, yet the one God. As you can see, my trinity provides a physical example from the atom, an example pertaining to social life and humans, Plato's definition of justice, and finally one from the heavens or the divine, from the New Testament. A notable mention of another trinity is Sigmund Freud's id, ego, and superego composing the one mind. Next, I want to talk about septenaries. I'm not done talking about trinities, but now that I have laid a definition and framework for trinities in Ocarina of Time, I want to talk about the number 7. I will get back into trinities in this discussion like at the Light Medallion, which is the 3rd color on the Roy G. Biv spectrum and happens to be the only medallion obtainable by completing 3 temples. 7 is a powerful number spiritually. According to the Old Testament, God created the earth in 6 days and on the 7th day rested. This has been interpreted as the 7 being distinct from the labors of the previous 6, as traditionally Sunday was a day of rest for man to honor the completion of a septenary. This is similar to Link collecting 6 medallions and only then with the 7th sage, Zelda, banishes evil from the Hyrulean universe. Like the creation of the universe in the Old Testament, Ocarina of Time uses this metaphor of the 7th separated from the previous 6 as a model for divine feats. Pagans and alchemists revere 7, and each day of the week has a god associated with it and one of the 7 alchemical metals. In music, there are 7 notes, and some people link these 7 notes with the 7 chakras. This leads to one of the main septenary connections in the game. The 7 chakras are embodiments of each of the 7 sages. The 7 chakras are the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus chakra, the heart chakra, the throat chakra, the third eye chakra, and the crown chakra. Going in order of both color and from the bottom of the spine to the top, the first sage is Darunia. First off, the player is introduced to the fire temple by meeting Sheik just outside. Sheik teaches you a song to fast travel to the fire temple from anywhere and describes the song as dedicated to the power of the heart. At first you may see heart and the color red and think that this temple is the heart chakra in our model. But the key word that shows us this is the root chakra is the word power. The heart is the middle part of the spine and Link is the middle part of the Trinity. Link grew up in the forest, which I will show as a lot more evidence towards being the place of the heart chakra later. Also, power is Din in this game. Din is both red and Ganondorf. Ganondorf is the man who comes from the place of death, opposite to the place where Link comes from, the place of life. Death Mountain should be seen as the opposite to the heart in this way. I have done some research on Darunia and the Fire Temple in relationship to the chakras, and this is what I have found. The name Darunia from different cultures refers back to the name Darius. While doing research on Darius, I found a connection between this temple and a myth from Sumeria, which the Babylons adopted most of their myths from. This myth is about the slaying of a fire-breathing snake-like dragon in the mountain associated with death and the underworld. The mountain and dragon were known as Kur, and here's a passage from the myth. Against the standing place of the gods, it has directed its terror. In the sitting place of the Anunnaki, it has led forth fearfulness. Its dreadful fear it has hurled upon the land. The mountain, its dreadful rays of fire it has directed against all the lands. This is important because when in a dysfunctional state, the root chakra plagues a person with fear. The root chakra is the base of the human spine, and when in harmony, makes one feel grounded and connected to reality. However, when our connection to reality is threatened, we feel the primal fearful effects we are all familiar with. The parallel with the myth is that both are a center corrupted by a negative force inspiring fear universally. Further, that this fear is connected with the below and earthly. One clue that this is the root chakra the player is dealing with is when you look at the Gorons imprisoned in the temple, they shake in terror and a prison in the underworld. This seems metaphorically connected to the myth and the root chakra, as their fear is literally associated with not being present in the normal world. Part of restoring harmony to this temple involves the act of rescuing these beings who are in constant fear. The interesting thing about this story is that the entity who defeats Kur is disputed, and I could see arguments for two of the versions scholars have argued as the most original. The first version is the Sumerian version of Neptune or Poseidon. Poseidon was one of the 3 brothers, sons of Cronus, who teamed up to defeat their father and was given a realm to govern over. The higher realm was given to Zeus, the middle realm was given to Poseidon, and the lower realm was given to Hades. The symbolism of Link representing the middle realm is the best argument for this interpretation. However, there is an argument that the creators had the other goddess in mind. This goddess is named Inanna, who would be equivalent to Venus or Aphrodite. The fire temple is 8-sided, and just like a pentagon makes a pentagram, This shape of the temple makes the symbol to Ishtar. Ishtar is the Semitic version of this goddess. The second temple using the chakra system is the Spirit Temple. The Spirit Temple is linked to the sacral chakra, or anatomically, the sex organs. The sacral chakra is the center concerned the most with physical feeling, and hence is the center with a high amount of feeling receptors. One of the giveaways that this is the sacral chakra is the entrance to the temple itself. I won't say any more. Another potential reference to this fact is the names of the two witches who inhabit this temple, Koumi and Kotaki. Koumi is translated as a type of plum in Japanese cuisine, while Kotaki is a mushroom. Koumi is red and Kotaki is blue. These two embody the Pythagorean concept of the number 2 well. I won't go deep into Pythagoreanism, but in Pythagorean numerology, the number 2 is the number associated with division. Koumi and Kotaki get thrills from harassing the tryings of others. They also represent the number 2 not just in being twins, but in the polarity of the type of magic they use. They even turn on each other in the end, which is an exemplification of the number 2 being so divisive it can even turn on itself. The concept of entities turning on their user is rampant in this temple. First off, this is the place where Link gets the Mirror Shield, which he uses in the temple to shine light on good and bad things alike. He uses this shield to turn the witches' magics on them. The temple itself was set up as a place for Nabooru, Ganon's second in command, was to practice the art of brainwashing, and her practice gets turned even on her. And finally, Nabooru turns herself against Ganon. This theme is connected to the sacral chakra in that the acts we perform with it have a risk to turn against us. Remember, I previously defined this chakra as the one most concerned with physical pleasure. Its location is a region reactive with food, drink, and sex. All three affect this area highly, and when one goes down the road of addiction, it is the moment they have the most control of this desire in the long run. However, what was once a servant to the individual now plagues the individual. In the lore, Ganondorf was raised by the twins who live in this temple. He wears a jewel colored the same orange as the Spirit Temple's medallion, and Nabooru also wears this jewel. This jewel is roughly where the pineal gland is, which we will be talking about later when we discuss the third eye. But for now, I will say that this is potentially symbolic, because it might show that Ganondorf is infected with this mindset on some level, as his boss battle also involves using his own energy against him. The yellow-colored medallion comes third. As I alluded to earlier, this medallion is earned from completing 3 temples. It is a trinity of temples that represents one sage. To get a sense of what this means symbolically, it helps to understand the chakra corresponding to the color. This is the solar plexus chakra. Just from the names, both the game and the chakra seem to imply solar energy, in that the name solar is in the chakra name and light is in the medallion name. This chakra is the middle stomach, which is analogous to our sun's process of creating energy from mass. The sun converts hydrogen into helium, and the process has leftover mass that converts to energy in the process. Our stomach takes food in and turns it into waste and has leftover energy in the process. Obviously, it's not the same scientific phenomenon, but as a metaphor, the solar plexus chakra is like the sun in that way. Speaking of stomachs, these temples all have much to do about stomachs. The first temple is inside the Great Deku Tree. I admit this is more ambiguous as to whether you are in an actual stomach, but the next temple is more clear as you are helping Gorons prevent themselves from starving. And the most clear of all is the final one inside Jabu Jabu's belly. This all happens at the beginning of the game. Link's hero status is in its infancy, and the choice of placing this chakra first is most likely deliberate because this chakra is, as defined by Wikipedia, through meditating on Manipura, one is said to attain the power to save, change, or destroy the world. When Link receives the Light Medallion, it is just after when the Master Sword determines him to be eligible to be the hero of time. So Link gets the medallion when he is ready to save the world. Basically, Link has done what the stomach and sun do, manifested the power of transformation. He has himself been churned through reality and the sacred realm in order to be converted into a hero, and now is ready to cleanse the world of evil by acting as a force of transformation on it. It's also notable that the language from the Wikipedia definition is that there is the phrase, "destroy the world," and just before Link awakens to have been determined to be able to save the world as the hero of time, Ganondorf enters the Sacred Realm and grabs the Triforce. This seems to indicate that the Sacred Realm itself embodies the third chakra, which may be why its symbol is a triangle composed of 3 triangles. Perhaps it's symbolic that Ganondorf is ready for his role while Link is not, and Zelda acts merely as a gatekeeper. When a man comes of age, their desire side is more mature than their sense of honor, and their higher self somehow knows things without having experienced it. The higher self resorts to instructing their sense of honor while disguised from an individual's desires so as to not be lamed by it. This is like Plato's chariot allegory. The charioteer is wisdom and needs to empower the spirited horse while finding a way to manage the appetitive horse. Getting back into Trinity mode on the metaphysical level, the mental realm must focus on the temporal realm, while engaging the physical realm in order for life to progress as opposed to fall apart. A simple example of this is, say the mind sees a truth and understanding the deepest arguments on both sides of a political issue will help the self create a better world for all. This is the Zelda. Now in order for this beautiful vision to take place, this higher self must empower the spirited part of the self, so that when the thoughts of desire come around, he can exert his will rather than desire exerting its will. The thought cannot succeed without time being on its side rather than desire's side. Better yet, imagine if desire was aligned with the other horse. That would make the journey the quickest. However, as this interpretation points out, desire has had free reign over the world for years before the spirit itself even matures. This is why the notion of making an 8-year-old a king, CEO, or some type of administrator is laughable. As well as for other reasons, we know that there is an extremely small chance that this person has the wisdom guiding their sense of time. So for everyone who wakes up at the age of 15 to wisdom guiding time, they have Link's job of cleansing all the damage to their energy center, and those who do so heroically go on to save the world itself or destroy it. The next chakra is, dare I say, special. While all chakras are important, it's hard not to say that the heart in this game and in many forms of art and spiritual systems is revered. In this game, heart containers are rewards for Link, allowing him to hold more heart, which is life for him. As I briefly showed earlier, the forest is the place of life, and so are hearts life. In order to increase 1 life point for Link, he must collect 4 of these heart containers. 4 is an important number for the heart. There are 4 chambers in a heart. It is the 4th energy center in the body. In the forest, you meet the Skull Kid, whom in Majora's Mask, he leads you onto a journey to cleanse 4 regions. The center of the world is Clock Town. The center of Clock Town is a clock. This game is about the fairy boy from the forest, the hero of time. The heart is the only energy center that keeps a sort of time by its heartbeat. Life exists in the realms of time and the heart. The first person you meet in this game is Soraya. Soraya has a Hebrew name, which means princess. The other princess in this game is Zelda. Zelda and Soraya each give Link an ocarina. There is something this game is saying about the relationship between Link, Zelda, and Soraya. Soraya is the Zelda of the forest, or Zelda is the Soraya of divine parts of the kingdom. Zelda's lullaby is left, up, right, repeated. Soraya's is down, right, left, repeated. Zelda's song goes clockwise, Soraya's goes counterclockwise. Soraya's song is the song of healing backwards, further connecting her symbol as the heart with the game Majora's Mask, which has a lot to do about a heart in a forest. Soraya's song also has the unique property of curing Darunia's depression. The heart chakra is a good way to resolve depression, as a healthy heart chakra shifts one's focus towards the things we love and are connected to, especially in the characters of others, but it's not limited to that. A healthy heart chakra gives a person compassion, acceptance of things with their flaws, and love. As the center of mankind, the heart being the place that greatly represents human connection, I refer back to the Trinity I made up at the beginning of this video, Plato's definition of justice. This was the middle part of my Trinity for a reason, because as the chakra system points out, and many other Trinities, the middle is very much about the human world of interaction. Soraya is perhaps Link's greatest friend, which serves as a great symbol of the heart chakra for Link as well. Now onto the Forest Temple. The first animals you meet at the Forest Temple are 2 wolves. Evolutionary, wolves are closely related to dogs. These animals have advanced capacity for discerning friend or foe within their own species. In a 2013 study on wolf behavior, specifically with their howling, researchers make the claim that friendship seemed to matter even more than hierarchy when researchers took a closer listen at the kind of howls that were emitted. These animals, evolutionary-wise, are a good representation of internal discernment for love, and being greeted to the temple by wolves seems as a deliberate way of showing how the heart chakra's present state is in the game. Its capacity to embrace outsiders is turned off. Next we get to the main room. Remember how I said that 4 was an important number for the heart? There are 4 torches that go out after Link makes a few steps into the inside of the temple. In Soraya's house, there are also 4 hearts laid out in the same square formation as the torches in this temple. While not directly connected, both of these may be an acknowledgement to the 4-ness of the heart, and each torch or heart represents a chamber. This also mimics the world of Majora's Mask. There is a 4-ness and a gateway in the center. In Majora's Mask, the gateway leads to the moon, which is a symbol to the mind. In the Forest Temple, the gateway leads to the Phantom of the Pinnacle of Evil in Link's universe. This temple is unique in that it has an outside and an inside, almost like it has an oxygenated part with life outside and a place of death with ghosts inside. A notable enemy in this temple are Stalfos, which are described as people who are lost in the sacred forest for an extended time. These inhabitants of this temple linked to the heart are ones turned into monsters by the very same force. If we take this metaphor of both being lost and in a place of the heart, we can hypothesize that the message is that prolonged periods of focusing on a disconnected heart turns one into a monster. The fact that these monsters live in the temple that represents the heart for Hyrule, like the wolves, exemplify the state of the heart of the world. The names of the ghosts, as others have pointed out, come from a 19th century American novel titled Little Women. My speculation about their names are that they are overtly Western and might be chosen as embodiments for the Christian religion, as well as being a novel that heavily showcases the heart. When we talk about Joseph Campbell, you will see that the New Testament begins at the heart for him. The Christian cross also intersects where the heart would be. The novel Little Women opens with a passage from The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, which is a book about a Christian man's allegorical journey from a city representing earth to a city representing heaven. Little Women is about 4 women who embody different outlooks on their coming-of-age process. Jo believes in her ability to make her own destiny, independent of what society enforces on her. Beth is like Jo, except she prefers to please people. Amy is like Jo, but accepts society for creating its gender roles. Meg is like Beth, a people pleaser, but also accepts society for creating its roles for them like Amy. The novel has a lot to do about human connection and love and how to exist within a system. This seems like the temple's chief connection to anything Christian, and the only conclusion I would make is that the designers of this game point to this novel about people responding to life's constraints in different ways. In the game, Jo has a more aggressive face than Beth, yet both of them laugh at you when you think you've hit them in their painting, kind of like a metaphor for their refusal to submit themselves to being fixed in a picturesque view society has made for them. Amy is green, and the name is heart-related, as in to be amorous. Amy is an artist in the novel, and she reveals herself when you solve her puzzle to form an image of her. When Jo and Beth reveal themselves, it's in rejection of being a painting. Amy reveals herself when she's made into one. The last ghost is Meg. In the novel, Meg is a people-pleaser and accepting of her role in society, so her battle makes sense as you have to see her idiosyncrasies to actually see her. When Link strikes a false image, that's like a person assuming someone is agreeable with them rather than just a people-pleaser. Seeing Meg for who she is to pay close attention and ignore the illusions she throws to mask any disagreeable part of her. At the core of this temple, or the heart of it, is Phantom Ganondorf buried deep beneath the center. The fight with this spirit also involves the act of determining which version of him is the real version. This is the quote-unquote Soraya version of Ganondorf. It's the less powerful but an important forest version of the one in Hyrule Castle. After doing a battle akin to the real Ganondorf's battle, he also meets the same fate as the real Ganondorf, banished from the universe. For this act, Link gets the Forest Medallion, and just like the Light Medallion, an event happens that heightens the meaning of this reward. While the temple is infested, Kokiri Forest is ravaged by monsters, and the cleansing of it restores Kokiri Forest back to the childlike zone of innocence it previously was. Further, a Deku sprout emerges to take the place of the Deku Tree. Hence, the protector of life, the forest, and a symbol of innocence, the tree, is restored in Hyrule. In addition, as I've alluded to, the middle part of many trinities and the chakra system both revolve around human character, and Link learns the truth about his character at this very moment. His whole life, he grew up in a place where he didn't really belong, a man destined for great things, thinking he would live his entire life as a child. It's fitting that right after perfecting his heart chakra, Link learns who he really is, a Hylian, not a Kokiri. After green, the next color is blue, and this is the color of the Water Temple Medallion. Blue corresponds to the throat chakra. The way I like to think of this chakra is that it is situated midway between the heart and mind. Meaning, if the mind represents truth, and the heart represents human connection and character, then the throat represents personal truths. It sounds poetic. We were given our throats so that we can help the world and ourselves communicate our personal truths and speak of the truths about others. This is the face of communication for man. Sometimes what we say can be contradicted by the rest of our body, but what we say is still often the focal point of our communication. Because of its proximity to the heart, when a man is set on clearing the blockages and swellings of the throat chakra, there is self-reflection involved. When Sheik teaches Link the song to teleport here, she prefaces it by telling Link, "Listen to the serenade of water to reflect upon yourself." Running on this thread, Link has one of the most pivotal moments in the entire game in this temple when he is confronted by Dark Link. Dark Link appears in the world at the same time Link's reflection in the water disappears. This exemplifies that this entity is a part of Link. The description Navi gives for Dark Link is to conquer yourself. As a metaphor, this Link appears to represent the psychological concept of the shadow. While the shadow can mean a few different things, for the sake of this video, I will define the shadow of oneself to mean the part of oneself that one is not conscious of. For example, if a man thinks highly of themselves excessively, their shadow would contain dangerous truths to that view, like bad listener, narrow-minded. If one thinks lowly of themselves excessively, their shadow would consist of things like noble sacrificer, durable, etc. To illustrate the shadow's connection to the throat chakra, imagine this extreme but potentially real scenario. Person A thinks they are morally superior and all problems are caused by others, and Person B thinks they are a bad human being. When Person A interacts with Person B, he will always feel Person B is bad, and Person B will always think Person A is good. Even if Person B sacrifices for A would not acknowledge it for B. But if A sacrifices for B would acknowledge it. This cycle wreaks havoc for both parties, as they would embolden the discrepancy of a person and their shadow. When Link confronts his shadow, it's not black and white like the example. On one hand, this Link is strong, and one of the most capable fighters in the game without using exploits, and he's even closely aligned with regular Link's ability. This could be residue of Link not realizing his status as a hero and still thinking of himself as a child in some way. That being said, Dark Link jumps on Link's sword, which seems like an excessive taunting measure, which might show that Link maybe is not as mature of a person as he may think he is. Another aspect is aggression increasing the closer to death he is. At first, Dark Link is rather reactive, but after taking many blows, he proactively attacks more. This could be indicative of the fact that this is just a person who reacted to a call to adventure, and now that the stakes are high, has transformed himself into a fierce warrior. And this is the last lesson we can learn from Link's shadow. In conclusion, I argue that Link overestimates his maturity, underestimates himself as a warrior, and has a flawed view of his own proactivity. Take this for what you will, because fighting your shadow and casting it back to a world beneath the surface sounds a lot like not resolving the discrepancy between your conscious and unconscious sense of self. The integration of the shadow is what I understand to be the idyllic state, yet Link does find a reward for this act, the long shot, further expanding his abilities. If Link acted wrongly, then I argue that Link acts narcissistically. To be clear, I'm not saying Link is a narcissist, but I'm just saying that the act of shunning the truth about yourself in favor of a stubborn or more pleasing narrative is in the realm of too much or insufficient self-love. And when one chooses too much, that is leading to the path of narcissism. The story of Narcissus from Ovid's Metamorphoses begins when a prophet, Tiresias, is asked by Narcissus' mother, "Will my son live to see old age?" To which Tiresias says, yes, if he never knows himself. Skipping ahead to when Narcissus sees his reflection in the water, he wants himself, he praises, but his praise is for himself. He is the seeker and the sought, the longed for and the one who longs. He is the arsonist and is the scorched. The narrator calls the reflection his shadow even, and after a prolonged period of adoring himself, Narcissus begins to realize his problem of being so deeply in love and begs the trees to tell him if they have ever seen lovers with so much grief. Whose love consumed him more than mine wastes me? Eventually realizing that it's himself lighting the flames that scorch himself. Narcissus can't break the hold of the love of himself and eventually kills himself, only that even in the afterlife he now adores his reflection in the river of Styx. I summarize this story because it teaches us about the tragedy of being fixed on conscious beliefs. The image of a person unable to have a healthy view of themselves following them to the afterlife is a powerful one to illustrate the danger of excessive self-love. Plus it shows that other sources connect a reflection in the water as a symbol for examining oneself. This temple represents the throat chakra, and the goal here is to perfect one's ability to speak for themselves. How is anyone ever going to speak truth about themselves if they are imprisoned with an imbalanced self-image? In my example, these people may think they are speaking for themselves, but they are actually speaking only partly for themselves, the part they are conscious of. If one is to truly speak for themselves, they must speak what is true for them consciously and subconsciously, and the only way to do that is by having an integrated shadow and discipline to keep it integrated. Other things in this temple that hint at the throat chakra are the snakes, not to mention the fact that their throats are where Link can use his hookshot, but the snake is a symbol of communications between worlds and various spiritual systems. The messenger god of the Greeks in Mesopotamia were associated with snakes. The symbol is simply both communication, like the throat, and communication between the worlds, like Dark Link to Link. Another potential deep connection to the throat in this temple is the sage Rudo. 4 of the sages have the root Ru in their name: Darunia, Naburu, Ra-Ru, Ruto. This Japanese character is used in all of these names for the Ru pronunciation. The Wiktionary for this character says the etymology is that it comes from the Japanese character featured here. It means current, or flow, or stream. The second character in the Japanese name Ruto is this, and in Ainu this means lake, but in Romaji it is a musical note. Coincidentally, the note is equivalent to sol in the Western Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti, which is the 5th in the sequence of 7. The song to teleport you to this temple is the shortest at just 5 notes, all of which, if added together and divided by the number of notes, would equal sol. What if this is intentional, I don't know, but I'm reminded of Steve Jobs' principles for his products. He wanted the insides of his products to be as beautiful as the outsides, even if nobody saw them. And perhaps there is some spiritual truth that when things have beauty hidden within, there is some heightening power granted to the entity. And finally, the boss for the water temple is Morpha, an enemy which also exists both in and outside the water, like Dark Link. This monster's primary attack is Choking Link, which is a physical connection to the throat. As with the other temples, cleansing this temple means putting this chakra in a productive state. So while Dark Link represents the internal aspect of this chakra, Morpha represents the more external or universal aspect. This act has external consequences. It frees an entire people who are frozen. Shakespeare appears to have borrowed from the Metamorphoses, because in this play, Richard II, a reactive king, learns the truth about himself in a scene when he smashes a mirror while looking into it. He thanks the man who shows how this image has destroyed himself, and this man is referred to as the sun that melted the hoarfrost that was Richard II. This exact metaphor is used to describe Narcissus's last moment as ice being melted by a sun. This reinforces that artists use the symbol of ice being melted in certain cases as synonymous with the death of the inability to communicate one's true self, and the cleansing of this temple appears to be Link gaining this ability, and it is synonymous with a healthy throat chakra. This next chakra is the third eye chakra. The third eye chakra represents an ability to see something mentally. Where the throat represents personal truths, the third eye represents the truth. This temple has some large references to the third eye, from the lens of truth to the boss Bongo Bongo. The temple I am talking about is the Shadow Temple, and a good definition of this temple's place in the Seven is Sheik's description when she teaches you the Nocturne of Shadow. She says, "This is the melody that will draw you into the infinite darkness that absorbs even time." So if the heart represents time and life, when going to the third eye, we are leaving that dimension and going to one where time is merely absorbed into it. Think about it this way. There are many objects in our universe, and every single one of them adheres to time. The third eye is the dimension where all time is a part of it. It's no mystery as to what this dimension is. It's the mental realm, symbolically and literally, as it's the energy center located in the brain. This temple is clearly the most dark of all temples. There are a lot of signs of torture, death, evil, and it is even described as a place where Hyrule's bloody history of greed and hatred have gathered. The mind is a very powerful place in the body and is susceptible to fear heavily. The entrance requires lighting 24 lanterns using Din's fire on a pedestal with the fire symbol on it. This symbolizes its connection to power and fear, and its proximity to Death Mountain heightens this and the death theme of the temple. The dark side of this chakra is it is capable of confronting dark truths about the world, and it's also capable of creating illusions that torment the self or evil to torment the world. This makes the brain powerfully unique from other chakras. Given that this game follows the mold of 6 labors followed by a 7th in reverence of the previous 6, I think it's worth pointing out that on the 6th day in the creation myth of the Old Testament, man was created. The brain is the 6th chakra and the organ that greatly distinguishes man from the rest of life. A good quote to illustrate this is, "At his best, man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst." This was said by Aristotle. The mind is what gives us our ability to be the worst animals of all. Man can use his mind to commit mass murder, torture, and mental pains inconceivable to other animals. This being said, as Aristotle points out, man can also be the noblest of animals. This is a creative center and hence can be a place that solves problems with the intent of saving humanity or providing truth and beauty for others. The deepest abilities of this chakra is the ability to create information. My understanding is that this can happen by merging 2 or more pieces of information to form something new, or less materially, we can work to have access to information given to us from outside of our minds. The former is a good foundation for scientific exploration, and the latter is the one that is more supernatural. The game depicts a microscopic and macroscopic picture of entities seeking the truth. The microscopic appears to be a man who once lived in Kakariko Village who tried to obtain the ability to see the truth without years of training his mind. His house is located where the well is, and the well reveals to be a place of dark spirits. The well also houses torture devices, prison cells, and coffins. This seems to indicate that this man's pursuit of the truth without the long and natural way was directly or indirectly linked to the suffering of others and even death. This is reminiscent of the Nazis and how they wanted quick ways to pursue scientific research, and sometimes those ways were scientifically brutal to man and others not even scientific at all. The macroscopic view is the mausoleum, that is the Shadow Temple. This was used during the Hyrulean Civil War, and it has torture devices that indicate that they may have tortured for intelligence. The connection between the two is that both are swiftly trying to acquire the truth, and these methods bring about hatred and evil as byproducts and turn the beholders into monsters. The individual obsessed with the truth looks like he's literally become an incarnate form of the third eye, as his face is a single eye where the top of the spine is. When he breaks free from the well, he naturally heads to the macroscopic version to his microscopic, the mausoleum that is the Shadow Temple. Learning how to utilize this power healthily leads to the boss fight in this temple. Link has to disarm him literally before having an opportunity to poke the third eye. This is akin to, say, ignoring your third eye directly and doing things that reduce its power. In the real world, this would be engaging in activities of the other chakras. However, I would note that the sacral chakra, as also a creation center, seems to in some way actually contribute to the power of the third eye. It's better to focus on your friends, examine who you are, focus on the transformations you want for yourself, or constructively disarm your fears and connect with the world. Then when this entity tries to overwhelm you with thoughts and mental images of itself, you can metaphorically poke the eye out.